Welcome to the Lone Wolf Paranormal Podcast. My name is Mike, the fallen angel, and I have Elisa here. She was one of the guests that we had prior to our podcast. She's going to go ahead and share another experience she had with an entity that's currently in her house. So we're going to go ahead and just give her the mic, and she can go ahead and take it away.
Hi everyone, it's so good to be back. Thank you very much for taking the time and being patient. As far as in this entity, I would probably say my first experience with this entity that's been at my house was rather random. I had been in the hospital, I guess, like a month prior to moving in with my mom, and I had moved in with her because I was sick. I wasn't sure for how long I was going to be down. So I went ahead and moved in with her in this newer house. And I started realizing after I, healed and I got better and stuff, I realized that there was actually some interesting paranormal events that were going on. I remember this one time I was at the house by myself. It was about 6 in the morning, and I heard like dishes clanging in the kitchen just randomly, and I didn't know what was going on. I was like, what the heck? And so I get up, and I'm thinking my mom got home, or maybe her boyfriend got home, or something. And so I go in the kitchen, and there's nobody there. I'm expecting to see my mom. I'm expecting to see him. I'm expecting to see somebody, but there's nobody there. And I'm thinking, okay, that's really weird. But that wasn't the only occurrence, because as time would go on, I would hear these random noises, sometimes a scratch on the wall, sometimes like banging around the kitchen, sometimes like I would see, I would go in the kitchen, be passing through, going toward the laundry room. I'd leave for a second or something, go to the bathroom or whatever, I'd come out, and one of the cabinets or one of the doors would be open. And so, it was very, very strange. And I realized that there was, finally that there was something, going on in the house. I just didn't know what it was.
So this happened when you were younger, or this actually happened currently?
This actually happened 2 years ago when I first moved in with my mom.
Okay, so 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago is when I realized it. And I was like, okay. There's always been like weird things going on, in the house, and there's always been random stuff, but this house was new, kind of new, been around since the 90s. I know that there is another lady that lived there, but at the time everything was in its infancy. I was trying to figure out where it came from, like who this thing was, or, what it was, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on, why it's there. And it took me months for me to realize, oh, okay, there's really something going on. Because there was a time I was talking to Lone Wolf here on the phone, and I had this sudden, like tension in the house. And I'm the only person at the house, but there was this random tension that just came out of nowhere. The temperature kind of dropped a little bit, and it just, like, you could feel, like, the anger. And I didn't know why or where it came from, but I know that my cat Nala was with me at the time, too, and she sensed that something was wrong, because she was looking around, and she was, like, looking around and stuff. So she was scared, too. She didn't know, I didn't know what she was looking at. I couldn't tell. One of the other occurrences that I dealt with was I was in the living room where the TV is, and Nala is with me, and I think I had just gotten her. And so I was watching, a show or something, and all of a sudden, like, I hear, like, creaking in the floor, and I turn my head, and I see, like, this random movement. Like, it was very faded, but it was there. And I look at Nala, and she was doing the exact same thing. Like, we're, like, looking, like, what the heck? But I couldn't tell what it was. It was just like this random faded movement. It was really strange.
Like a shadow?
Kind of like a shadow, yeah.
Kind of like a mist, maybe silhouette kind of type of thing?
Yeah, it was kind of like a silhouette mistiness, but without the mistiness.
Oh, okay.
And it was just faded, but I could see something move, and I'm like, what the heck, you know? And so she was doing the same thing. Her eyes were moving too, and then she looks at me for confirmation. I'm like, I can't see it as well as you can. Like, I don't know why you're looking at me. Like, I'm just sitting here. And but the only time I ever felt like not really threatened, but I could feel, you know, like anger was that night. It was, you know, some months after that incident, that night where I see movement. And talking to Lone Wolf here, and there's this random tension in the house, and there's like, you know, like knocking, you know, on the walls and stuff, and I'm like, what the heck? I went ahead and decided to grab a smudge stick, you know, because I'm thinking that it's just a negative spirit or something. I didn't know what it was. So I grab a random smudge stick and I start smudging the house a little bit, you know, but I still hear the, you know, like knocking on the wall, and I'm like, okay, well then this is something beyond smudging, you know. So I'm like, okay, I don't know what it is, but I think it calmed him down a little bit because he chilled out, you know, and I was like, okay, well, whatever it was, it calmed down. And it was like I said, it was just like multiple things like that. And then I would, you know, as that's where we come to the other story that I had written to you and you had read. It was about me having a couple of false awakenings, and there was a smoke coming in the room, because like the door opens, there's smoke that comes in the room, and then there's a figure that's standing right next to the bed, and we're just looking at each other. I didn't feel threatened. I didn't feel concerned, but there was some weird familiarity between me and what was in my room. And that wasn't the only random appearance that I've seen from him. You know, like I've seen like things moving around the kitchen. Like I'll be the only person in the house, and then I'll see like movement in the dark kitchen. You know, because like there's some lights, you know, in the background, and then I see like the light there, and all of a sudden it's gone, and then the other one it's there, and all of a sudden it's gone, and then it comes back, and I'm like, oh, okay, so there's somebody walking around. I remember those first experiences. They were pretty creepy, but I never really felt threatened, you know. Let's see.
So this ghost was kind of like, I don't know, maybe like a visitor? You know, maybe just something that just followed you, maybe something that, because, you know, I know through my knowledge of the paranormal, and I'm not trying to say I'm a pro, but from what I read and from what I know, you know, a lot of spirits, you know, they're everywhere. Yeah. You know, and sometimes they just come in, you know, they come at will. Sometimes they get attracted to certain things, maybe a toy, memory, maybe they see something, you know, people, you know, and they just coming by, they're everywhere. So sometimes they stick around, they visit. It's possible, you know. It's
very possible, but the thing is that I finally learned who he was. I finally got to that point. This was back in the summertime of this year, and I don't know what sparked this visitation. I don't know why it happened, but it happened. You know, I had gone to sleep after an overnight shift. I, you know, got home, I showered, everything, and I went to sleep. So I pass out and I hear a noise at the door. And I get up, and there's something different about the atmosphere. It's different. I can't really explain it. It's just different, you know. And I get up, I open the door, and I look out of the hallway, and there's a spare bedroom, and then there's my bathroom. And so everything's like kind of across from the other, you know, because there's kind of a small hallway, and it leads into the living room, and then there's, you know, it leads into the dining room, then there's a living room, then there's a kitchen on the side. And there's 2 archways that lead into the kitchen. So I had opened the door, and I look outside the hallway, and I see, you know, I'm kind of taken aback for a second, because I see this random person, look normal, you know, just a normal person, walk by from the spare bedroom, and he just looks at me, and he just walks on by, and I'm like, whoa, who are you? You know, I'm like, hey, what are you doing in my house? And so I'm coming out of the room because I'm going to confront this person. And then all of a sudden I get stopped right in the middle, because someone comes out from one of the archways from, leading into the kitchen, comes out and stops me. And it's just this man, didn't really stand too much taller than me. And so he stood in front of me, and he said, "Oh, you made it. It's good for you to be able to finally see me." And I'm like, "I know you, like there's something familiar."
Yeah, connection.
Yeah, and I was like, "I know you. Who are you?" And I was like, "Who are you?" And he said, "Come into the kitchen. Let's sit down. Let's talk." I said, "Okay." So as I'm walking out of my room and I'm walking into the hallway, I look straight ahead and I can see into the living room where the TV is. And I see what looks like this flat, I can't describe it. It looks kind of like a mirror, but it's from the side. And I see people walking in and out of that mirror, and I realized what it was. It was a portal. And I was like, "Oh, well, that explains why there's always random occurrences that go on in that living room," And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So it's just like right in the middle of the room. And I'm thinking, okay, well, that would explain a lot. So I go and I go into the kitchen. I follow this man, and I didn't feel threatened or anything, but I follow this guy, and we sit down. My mom has a big round glass table. And so he's sitting across, and I'm sitting on the other side, and we're talking. And, I asked him, I said, "I know you. I know you. Who are you? No, really, who are you?" And he said, "Call me Victor." And
So it had a name.
He had a name. I know it was probably not his real name, but he had a name. He said, "Call me Victor."
So all this was in a dream, right?
This was all in a dream.
A dream that he was talking to you.
Yeah, he was talking to me. And I said, "Okay." So we're sitting down, and he says, "Call me Victor." I said, "Okay, Victor." I was like, "Why are you here?" And he said, "Well, I'm an attachment of your mom's." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I kind of stumbled on my words. I'm like, "How?" And then like right when I said how, I held up my hand. I said, "Never mind. I don't want to know." Because sometimes you can find out too much information. I just know that there's some kind of history there. I don't really want to know what happened. I just don't. I have a feeling that it would kind of like mess with me.
Yeah.
So I really don't want to know. But I realized, I was like, "Oh, okay." And I asked him, I said, "You're not going to hurt her, are you?" And he looked at me, he goes, "No." He was like, "I'm not about the harming or the possessing kind." I said, "What are you then?" I was like, "Are you a poltergeist? Are you a ghost? Are you a spirit? What are you?" And he said, "I'm a lower class demon." He was like, "I'm one of those that likes to get attention, but I'm not the kind that's going to harm anybody."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, okay." And so as this was going on, as this conversation was going on, I kept seeing, people walk by, from the archways. And I'm like, okay. And then I see this familiar ghost walk by. And I look at her, because I see her coming from the direction of my room. And she's walking by. And I'm like, "Oh my God." And I had a flashback of where I first saw her. It was about a year and some ago. I was sitting in the kitchen, and I was sitting in the same chair that I was sitting when I was talking to Victor. And, I have the windows, not the windows open, but the window shades open. And it's already at night, about 9 o'clock. I'm the only person at the house, just me and Nala. And I'm facing the window. And with that archway, as I'm talking about, you can see directly into the room behind me. And it's just nothing but, like the couch and, like some of the furniture and everything. That's all you can see. But then I see like this woman walk by in a white dress, like one of those old, like Victorian style dresses. And it, like it came up, covered her neck. and her hair was like all in a bun and stuff like that. And so she's walking by, and she looks at me as she's walking by. She's like that, and she just like keeps going towards where my room is. And I've never stood up so fast in my life. Like, I stood up, I turned around, I'm like, what the heck was that? And it scared me, to be honest with you, because I was the only person at the house. I should not be seeing anybody in my house, so it freaked me out. But turned around, and then I realized, I was like, oh, okay, it's, an apparition or something. It's a ghost. So I said, all right, it's fine. I did not follow her. I didn't want to know. I was like, I'm just going to leave her alone. And I didn't mess with her. I didn't try talking to her or anything. I just left her alone. So it was the same ghost, going back to the dream of me and Victor. I see her walk by from the other archway going toward my room. And as she's walking by, she looks at me. Like, she turns her head at the other archway. She looks at me, and then all of a sudden she stops. And she kind of walks back a little bit, and she turns her head, and she looks at me, and she smiles real big. And, she recognized me. She knows who I am. And, I looked at her, I was like in shock. I was like, what are you doing here? I was like, what the heck? And then Victor had stopped me. He said, don't worry, she does not live here. She comes through once in a while, but she does not live here. And I'm looking at her, and I'm like, hi. Because she greeted me. She said, hi. I said, hi. And she just started walking, and I didn't see her after that. I was like, okay. So me and Victor just kept talking, and it's like I said, I just kept seeing people walk by. I'm like, okay. And so me and him were talking for a little bit, and then we're kind of like laughing and stuff. And I had asked him, I said, I got some questions for you. I was like, this is not our first encounter, is it? He was like, no. I was like, you were the one in my room that night, weren't you? You were the one that visited me. You came in as a smoke in the house, and then you set up shop like right there next to my bed, didn't you? And he smiled like this big like grin on his face, and he was like, that was me. I was like, I gotta tell you, that was creepy. That was not funny. I told him straight, that was not funny.
I mean, I know when I've been to your place, we always feel.
Yeah.
I know I always feel things too.
Yeah.
And I know eventually, as we continue, and maybe in the future we'll do some investigations there. I'm pretty sure Victor will come around.
Oh yeah.
I do think we're gonna get in touch with the people, the other entities that we don't even know that they're there. I mean, we know they're there, but we don't know who they are.
Yeah.
And that'd be something I would love to do. Maybe get some history. Maybe we'll even find out what they really want.
Yeah.
A lot of spirits that linger on is because there's something's missing in their life.
Yeah.
Something they didn't accomplish. Something they didn't say. They have a special message for someone, loved one.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely that's something I look forward to do, and that's an interesting story. I mean, I know you have a lot, but to all the listeners, Elisa is she's one of my good friends that's experienced a lot of paranormal in her history, growing up as a child, even to a teenager, and even to now. So yeah, I mean, everything she says, I can vouch that it's real. She's messed with the Ouija board. She knows the do's and don'ts. She knows by prior experiences that she's what can happen, and she did have some things happen to her, but that's something I'm gonna let her explain as we continue on the podcast in the future. But go ahead and what else do you have for us?
Well, I basically told Victor, I said, okay, well, after meeting you, I can tell that you're not going to harm anybody, but I still would like to give you house rules. And he just kind of looked at me like, what? Like, okay, kind of like, just like, okay. And I said, rule number 1, cause no harm to anybody in this house, including my cat. I will find out if it's you.
Of course, not the cat, right?
Not the cat. I said, I will find out if it's you, and there will be a problem. I said, number 2, don't break anything. I was like, like this is my mom's house. Don't break anything. He said, okay. I said, number 3, we will keep our distance from each other. We won't really bother with each other. As long as you are respectful and you obey these rules, I will not have a problem with you. Just, don't cause any harm, don't, break anything, and most importantly, you're not allowed to invite any of your friends or buddies or anybody. Like you're the only one that's allowed here. Just like I said, keep your distance, I'll keep mine, we won't mess with each other. I said, is that a deal? And he goes, yeah. And I said, okay. And so we shook each other's hand, and I woke up.
And I think that deal was made because I know, like I said, I've been to your house for a while, and I always sense at least one there.
Yeah.
I never sensed a many like a lot of presence there. It's always seemed, and that guy Victor, I believe that what you said his name. I think he's a real cool guy. Yeah. I mean, he doesn't really mess around with you. Just respects your privacy, your space. I know when we hung out around there we never had anything happen.
Yeah.
Anything that would scare the crap out of us,
Yeah.
So I mean, that's pretty cool, and that's an interesting story. I mean, that's something I wish I could have seen.
Yeah, experience.
Yeah, and that's hopefully I was telling you, that I want to do some EVPs and we'll maybe do some live EVPs so we can see what we get. Maybe through video, use our phones or maybe on Facebook or something, and show the viewers that that there is a Victor that lives there, and there's other entities there that come and go. Like I said, there's a portal. Portals are doorways for any spirit to come in. We don't know when, but they come as they go as they please. Good thing is that at least we know your spirit is really cool with you. Nothing threatening.
Yeah.
We know some. As as we read stories from other people experiences that there's demons and spirits that just want to start trouble.
Yeah.
And,
well, there was that poltergeist that came into the house briefly. He did not last long, but he was rather interesting. I didn't realize that he was a poltergeist. All I knew is that these random occurrences were going on. I thought, Victor was just messing with me. But to make the long story short, I had gotten this bright idea to pull out the Ouija board in the house. And I know better, but I did it anyway. So I pulled out the Ouija board, and I had the candles set up, and I got the cat there, and I'm thinking, okay, well, this is going to be fun. Well, yeah, it was rather interesting because I get in contact with something. The planchette was moving, and I'm like, okay, well, there's something here, and I'm thinking it's Victor the entire time. And then I hear a pop on one of the walls or the boxes or something, and I'm like, what the heck, okay. And then I hear something shoving along on the floor in the kitchen, and it sounds like one of the chairs that's in there. And I'm like, okay. And then I hear, a noise near my mom's room, and I turn my head, I'm like, what the heck? And then all of a sudden I can feel something right in front of me because I'm at the table and I'm at the couch, right? I'm sitting on the couch and I have everything on the big round table that's right in front of me. And so I turn my head and I see something standing right in front of me. I'm like, oh my God. I just look hesitantly, and it wasn't there. There was nothing there. But I could see random movements and stuff, and I'm like, this was probably a bad idea. But I could tell that there was something different. I didn't know what it was. And I'm like, okay. And so I closed the session. I'm sorry. I found out it gave me initials. I asked what his name was, and it gave me MWJ. And I'm like, okay, MJ for short. And it said yes. I said, okay. And I said, all right, well, now I know who you are. That's great. And I said, I'm going to go ahead and end the session. Thank you very much for your time. And so we both said goodbye. I'm like, okay, that's fine. But I could still hear random noises going on in the house. And I'm like, crap. And so as time goes on, I'm thinking, okay, well, it's just a ghost. He'll go away in a couple of days or something. Well, in actuality, I go home. I leave for, I guess, a couple hours. I go to the gym or something. And then I come back, and there's a plaque right next to my mom, right next to the front door. And it was on the floor. It was knocked over. And I'm thinking, that wasn't Victor. You know what I mean? That, that was something else. He knows better. And I'm like, what the hell? And I'm thinking, okay, whatever. So I'm doing laundry that night, and I have, all these hangers on top of the dryer, and I have, the basket on the floor of clothes and everything. And so I walk away, I go into the bathroom, I hear a noise, And I'm like, what the hell? And I open the door, and Nala's like right there in front of the door, and she's like freaked out. And I'm like, what happened? What did you do? You know, because I'm thinking she did something. And I go into the laundry room, and I see all those hangers on the floor. And I'm like, that's not funny. You know, like, that's not funny. And I was like, that's really not cool. And so I just pick him up and I hang him somewhere, and I just like walk away. And when I turned my head, one of the doors in the cabinets were open. And I was like, really? So I knew something was going on. And it took me time because I could not see him. I could not see this thing. And I'm like, what is it? You know, like it's, I mean, normally with a ghost, you can see, you know, like some movement or, you know, whatever. You can, you know, kind of detect that something's there. You can kind of see like a little shadow or something. But I didn't see anything. And I'm like, this is really strange. And so I'm trying to figure it out. And I go to a friend of mine's house named Amy. And, you know, I was telling her on the phone, I said, yeah, I got this random ghost in the house right now. And I was, you know, it was in the middle of the day, 1 o'clock or so, and I'm eating lunch. And as I'm talking to her, you can hear like, you know, like footsteps in the kitchen, you know, and I'm just talking to her, and I'm like, yeah, I got this random ghost that showed up or something. And I told her, you know, when he showed up. And so she's like, oh, really? And so, you know, we're talking and stuff, and, you know, like she's dealt with Ouija boards and stuff too before. And so she's like, oh, really? So she's very familiar with the paranormal. And so she's like, oh, okay. She was like, well, anyway, you want to come over to my house? I was like, yeah, sure. So I came, you know, I went over, I guess, like maybe an hour or two later. And, you know, I check out her place. I'm like, dude, this place is really cool. Then I look into the room that she has, and there's like a spare bedroom, but it has like these random not artifacts, but like furniture and stuff. And I see it, and I'm like, no, there's something wrong with that furniture, right? And I'm like, I don't know.
It has some like negative energy.
Yeah, it's got like energy to it.
It draws your attention.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh no. And so as the night wears on and stuff, she shows me around her place. And she's like, yeah, come in this one room. I'm saying, okay, yeah, sure. So she opens that same door. And I see it, and I'm like, oh my God, why do you have this stuff? And she's like, I know. I was like, no, seriously, why do you have this stuff? You have no business keeping this. And she said, yeah, she was like, it's not me. My dad, you know, like keeps it in there. You know, he has no other place to put this stuff. I was like, you need to tell him to get rid of it. He should not have it. You know, he needs to sell it or something. You know, like he has no business keeping this. And she's like, I know. This is why I keep the door closed. I was like looking around, and she's showing me like, you know, like a chest or something that the monks in Tibet had or something like that. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like looking around. I'm just like keeping my hands in my pockets. I'm like, I'm not going to be the one to touch it. You know, like I'm not going to be the one to touch it. Like it draws you, but you know better. You know, like, I'm not touching it. I'm not going to be the one. Mm-mm. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh my God. So anyway, then there's like this picture that she shows me. She's like, yeah, he got this for me randomly today. And I'm like, what the hell is it? So I'm looking at it, and I realize it's like an elephant. And it's beaded up and everything, but it's hand woven.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you need to get rid of that too. And I was like, I'm not touching it. But it drew me. And I almost did, you know, because like I was so thrown off by it. I was like looking at it, I was like, what the hell? You know, like it just made you question everything. You're like, well, how did they make it? Like, what does it feel like? And my hand almost touched it. And I was like, you need to get rid of that too. I was like, don't touch it. She was like, I'm not going to touch it. I was like, no, seriously, do not touch it. I was like, there's something on this picture. I was like, do not touch it. She's like, I'm not going to touch it. I'm not going to touch it. And so anyway, the night goes on, and I go home. I was exhausted. When I get home, the atmosphere in the house is different. It's like lighter or something. I'm like, okay, well, that's weird. It was oddly quiet in the house. I'm like, why is it so quiet in the house? You know what I mean? And I'm expecting, like, you know, the same crap that MJ was throwing around and shit. I was expecting that, but nothing happened. And I'm like, that's really weird. So 2 nights like this go by, it was quiet. And I was like, that's strange. I go to work Wednesday, and Amy approaches me, and she's like, I think you left something at the house, at my house the other night. I was like, what? Like, what could I have left? A lighter? Like, a pack of cigarettes? Like, what did I leave? And she was like, no, no, no. You left something. Like she's hinting to me. You left something, but we're surrounded by people, and
Of course, yeah, she didn't want to.
She didn't want
in front of them.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
don't think those guys are crazy or something.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, I'm still trying to figure. I'm scratching my head. She's like, don't worry about it. When we go out for a smoke break, I'll talk to you about it. I'm like, okay. So she knew I wasn't catching the hint. I was like, all right. So I guess like an hour or two later goes by. We go out and we smoke, and she's telling me, she's like, hey, your ghost buddy? I was like, yeah, MJ. I was like, what's up? She was like, he's over at my house now. I was like, are you kidding me? And she's like, no. I was like, oh my God. And she started laughing. She was like, it was the weirdest thing. She's like, I was going to go to bed that night, and all my animals were outside. She's got a bunch of cats, and she's got a dog and stuff, and they were outside the house. Well, apparently, like, one of the cabinets like one of the doors had opened. Some stuff was like flown off like her countertop and stuff, and I was like he followed me there. I was like, I'm so sorry. She's like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I was like, what the heck? I was like, did you see him? Like, could you see him? Because I'm trying to figure out. She can see stuff too. I was like, were you able to see him? She's like, I can't see him. And I'm like, what the hell? So let's fast forward. As time goes on, she tries to get rid of him, and anytime that he leaves her place, he would come over to my place for a few nights, and then after that he leaves. And I'm thinking, normally things like this stick around, they don't leave. So I'm trying to figure it out, and then I realized, oh, Victor's kicking him out. That's what it is. So I realized it. I mean, when a spirit attaches itself to something, they are very territorial.
Yeah,
so
they mark their territory.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. I was cool with him kicking him out. It was fine. He was an ass. So I was like, all right, cool. So as time goes on, this weird incident happens at work. My friend Amy, I think, is at her house, and she says that she's, on her little patio area, and she's, she's texting me at the time, and, well, she had left her phone on the couch, and I didn't know what was going on, of course, because I was at work. So then I get like this random text, because I'm asking her, I'm like, what's going on? Because she's saying that there's random stuff that's like, being, thrown off the countertops again. And I'm like, that's really weird. And she's like, I don't know how to get rid of this thing. And so I'm thinking, oh my God, Amy. And I realized he's a poltergeist. I was like, Amy, he's a poltergeist. That's why we can't see him. You can't see a poltergeist. I was like, oh my God, that's a poltergeist. And she was like, oh yeah, that would make a lot of sense. Well, I guess she had left her phone on the couch or something, and she had gotten up to use the bathroom. Then all of a sudden I get a text from her phone, from her number, and it says, it's MJ or something like that. And I'm like, what the heck? And it was like 5 minutes later, I get a text from her, and she was like, that wasn't me that sent that. And I was like, what the hell just happened? And she was like, I left the phone, like on the patio, on the couch. I went to the bathroom, I just got back. And I was like, what the heck? And I was like, I told her, I was like, you realize he's not gone. He's still there. And she was like, yeah. And she was like, I don't know how to get rid of him. I was like, it's that furniture that's keeping him in there, probably.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I don't know. You either need to get rid of it, or I don't know. But it was crazy. But
we still don't know, right, if she ever got rid of that stuff. So do you know anything about that, or she hasn't updated you on MJ?
I've asked her recently. I asked her, I think last week. I said, how's it going with MJ? And she said, oh, I haven't gotten anything from him. And over at my place, it's dead silent. There's no noise, there's no nothing. But I do know that poltergeist, I've read stuff about poltergeist, and apparently, it's either, it can be like almost as dangerous as a demon, or it's, just real playful or whatever. And I know that they have like all this energy, and they do like random stuff all the time. And I know they can die out quick. You know, like they lose their energy
Yeah.
or something. You know, something goes on. Like their energy just goes kaput. So it'll be like several weeks to a couple of months or something, and then they just
It may have just ventured off to
probably.
another area. You know, I mean, because like mainly these type of ghosts they're not saying they're all negative, but you know, to be doing negative shit like that, you know,
Yeah.
I don't think maybe it was negative there. You know, there was not, and so to them there was really no action.
Yeah.
So they just left. You know, they got bored, and took off, and maybe they attached to something different. But that's what it sounds to me. I mean, like I said, I never experienced poltergeist. I seen things fly off the shelf during investigations, you know. But that's just entity. Then you know that it's there.
Yeah.
You know, but I never experienced. You know, and hopefully I do. You know, go to a house where we see just random stuff flying off the shelf or things like that. That'd be very interesting, especially catching on video.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sounds really good. You know, it's a good experience. I mean, not saying it's good, but it's good that you know that you kind of saw that, and you know, as like I said, as your history with the paranormal as you're growing up as a child to a woman, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, at least you know that it's out there.
Yeah.
And you know, at least you can vouch and tell our viewers and our listeners that you know that it's real. You know, I know I know back then and back in the old days, you know, talking about entities and spirits was, you know, people thought you were on drugs or something, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Now today it's more open, but we still have you know,
Skeptics.
our skeptics that, you know, they don't believe it, you know, but, you know, hopefully, you know, with this podcast and hopefully with other paranormal people out there, you know, that are out there trying to prove that exists, you know, we can make it, you know, show them that it's real. But until then, you know, we're always just gonna have, you know, our skeptics. We're gonna have our believers, you know, and hopefully one day we'll have enough evidence to prove that there is life after death. The soul lives on, energy lives on, because that's where we're all energy. Like Steve Huff says, you know, and I'm a big Steve Huff fan. You know, he always talks about love is the key. You know, we do live on. I know if you watch his videos on YouTube, you know, you can go and check him out. He's always proving things wrong. He makes cool little ghost boxes, and you know, he's always getting a lot of evidence, especially contacting some celebrities.
Yeah.
So you know, I know that guy's real, and you know, my dream is to meet him one day and do an investigation with him. But
that'd be great.
I met with him, and then I met Katrina Cooper. She's a medium right now, and she's a good friend. I met her at one of the paranormal events we had here in San Antonio at the Black Swan Inn, and she was real sweet. She actually read my thoughts. She got in contact with my mom. She pretty much nailed it down to the nail, you know, and made me a believer that day. So you know, she has a Facebook as well. You can always get in contact with her. But yeah, I want to shout out to her. Also, I want to thank Elisa, you know, coming out, sharing her experiences. I know she's got a lot, you know, we can be here all night, you know, but we're going to share that for future podcasts. Also, watch out for the St. Joan of Arc Paranormal. We're a new group that was created a month ago. Art and Dominica have created this, and Kenneth Drill. We're all part of the group. We're also going to be having new members coming in soon. We're actually planning out some cool investigation equipment at this time, and we're going to be having videos, and we're going to be going on investigations. And go ahead and like the page. Also go to my page, Lonewolf Paranormal. We're going to post this video as soon as we're done, and Elisa is part of the Lonewolf Paranormal podcast team, so you're going to be hearing her a lot in the future. You've seen her in videos. We're going to start trying to shoot live video EVP sessions, so you can kind of get a picture of our face and you can know who we are. Also, like I said, I want to thank her for coming out today. You know, we had ugly weather, but she managed to come out, share her experience with us. I hope it reaches out to a lot of viewers out there, a lot of listeners. Like I said, we know a lot of people are going through some stuff. This is dark times for people. You know, like I've done investigations in the past with my former group, and you know, we've seen a lot of things. We heard a lot of stories. You know, I know we watch a lot of scary movies and it's interesting, but the real thing is real. We do put ourselves on the line every day. You know, like Lisa said, messing with Ouija boards. She already explained to you what happened to her. I seen things happen to some of the clients that we went and visit. You know, I never messed with Ouija board, but I've seen and heard stories about it, and it's enough evidence for me not to mess with it. But
they're not all sessions are bad, but
yeah,
you know, if you're not careful,
you have to really go out there and do it with someone that actually been doing it for a good amount of time, a veteran. I know we got a lot of people that are just real involved in it. They're real curious, and I guess they're bored. They want to go and do that, and to me, that's probably like the wrong time.
Yeah.
It's
It is.
these spirits that you call upon. I mean, I'm not saying they're all bad, but I know the majority of them are out there, and I know there's a demon that actually I think it's Zozo that's involved with Ouija boards. From what I'm hearing from viewers,
He's really just he's a cranky like Ouija board demon. I don't know what his deal is, but he'll kind of come in the session once in a while, just call you a dick randomly, and just take off.
I know he's an old timer. He's an old demon that's been around for a long time.
He's mean.
And and I know he's very violent. And I know a few people have actually gotten in contact with him, and it wasn't a real good story. So that's one thing that you're messing with. Zozo's one of those big demons out there that really.
If you're not careful.
If you're not careful, you can summon him, and he really lingers around the Ouija board because that's a powerful tool. I believe that's one of the best tools out there. I mean, it's dangerous, but we have all these equipment. We can try to get in contact with spirits, but I think the Ouija board is the best one, but the worst and dangerous equipment you can mess with.
Oh, yeah.
This has been going on since the beginning of time, since it was invented. I mean, people actually brought spirits out, and possessed, and it's something I don't want to. I mean, I would love to see a video on it, but I mean, I would never like to do it. But like I said, just if you guys are out there doing that stuff, be careful. Make sure that you have a veteran with you. Make sure you have a cleanser. You have someone that can pray for y'all. Have a protector. So your sessions can go well, and hopefully get the answers, all the answers you want. Questions and answers. Answered. And experience it. But like I said, just we're gonna be doing more videos on Ouija boards, and we're gonna have to write stories. I'm actually gonna go out there and start doing more research on it. The St. John of Paranormal, our specialty is gonna be in demonology. So we're actually trying to get permission from the churches, and we can go out there and start doing more research on demonologies and talk more about like demons like Zozo and other ghosts out there. But I want to give a thanks to Elisa for coming out again, sharing her experience. Like I said, it takes a lot of guts and a lot of courage to come out and share your stories, and hopefully we can get more listeners and viewers. I actually want people to know that you can always get in contact with me through my webpage. You can also send your stories if you want me to read them out, experiences to MikeGuerra2025@gmail.com. I know I haven't really got a lot of submissions, but if you want me to share your experience, please feel free to submit your stories, your experiences to me through my email. I'll be more than happy to read them every week, a podcast, and give a shout out to you. Once again, I want to give a shout out to the Dead Seekers. They were on the last podcast. All the Dead Seekers came to my place. We actually shot a nice podcast, really good hour-long podcast. You may want to check it out. These guys are a great team. They experience a lot of stories. They got a lot of stories, and we're going to do a lot of work with them in the future. It's going to be Lone Wolf Paranormal, Dead Seekers, and the St. Joan of Arc, and we're going to work as a team and try to get a lot of great evidence. 2020 is going to be our year, so we're really pushing for that to make it a great year with the paranormal. But I want to go ahead and give everybody everybody have a great night. Once again, thank you, Lisa, for coming out to the Lone Wolf Paranormal podcast.
Thank you.
And always remember that you're never alone. And once again, thank you for listening to this podcast, and you guys have a great night.